করোনা সংক্রমণের হাত থেকে ছাত্রছাত্রীদেরকে বাঁচানোর জন্য রাজ্য সরকার অনলাইন ক্লাস এবং লাইভ ক্লাস করার ব্যবস্থা নিয়েছেন বৈদ্যুতিক চ্যানেলের মাধ্যমে। বিগত 19শে এপ্রিল থেকে শিক্ষা দপ্তর অনলাইনে ক্লাসের ব্যবস্থা করেছেন। আমি আশা করি তাতে রাজ্যের ছাত্রছাত্রীরা লাভান্বিত হয়েছেন। আর দ্বিতীয় 6 জুন থেকে বৈদ্যুতিক চ্যানেলের মাধ্যমে লাইভ ক্লাসের ব্যবস্থা করা। আমি আশা করি এই ক্লাসগুলো সমস্ত ছাত্রছাত্রীরা অ্যাটেন্ড করবেন এবং তার সুফল রাজ্যের সমস্ত ছাত্রছাত্রীরা এবং তার পরিবারের সদস্যরাও পেতে সক্ষম। আজকের এই পরিস্থিতিতে কোনোভাবেই রাজ্য সরকার ঝুঁকি নিয়ে ক্লাস বা স্কুল খোলার ব্যাপারে সিদ্ধান্ত নিতে সক্ষম নয় যতদিন পর্যন্ত না করোনা সংক্রমণের ভ্যাকসিন না আসে বা সোশ্যাল ডিস্টেন্সিং মেনটেন করে ক্লাস চালানোর ব্যবস্থা না হয় ততদিন পর্যন্ত ক্লাসরুমে বসে ক্লাস করা সম্ভব নয়। তার জন্য শিক্ষা দপ্তর এই সিদ্ধান্তগুলো নিয়েছেন। আমি আশা করি বৈদ্যুতিক চ্যানেলের মাধ্যমে যে লাইভ ক্লাস তার লাভ সমস্ত ছাত্রছাত্রীরা পাবেন এবং নিজেকে সে মতো তৈরি করবেন।
করোনা সংক্রমণ রোধে রাজ্য সরকার বিদ্যালয়গুলিতে পঠন পাঠন বন্ধ রাখতে বাধ্য করেছে। এতে ছাত্রছাত্রীরা নিয়মিত শ্রেণী শিক্ষা অনুসরণ করতে অসমর্থ হচ্ছে। ফলে ছাত্রছাত্রীদের শিক্ষণ প্রক্রিয়ার সাথে সম্পৃক্ত রাখার লক্ষ্যে মাননীয় মুখ্যমন্ত্রীর অনুপ্রেরণায় ও মাননীয় শিক্ষামন্ত্রীর একান্ত আগ্রহে বিদ্যালয় শিক্ষা দপ্তর 19শে এপ্রিল থেকে বৈদ্যুতিক মাধ্যমগুলিতে এলিমেন্টারি এবং সেকেন্ডারি স্তরের ছাত্রছাত্রীদের জন্য অনলাইন ক্লাস শুরু করেছিল। পরবর্তী সময়ে ছাত্রছাত্রীদের অনলাইন ক্লাসের প্রতি আরও মনোযোগী করতে লাইভ ক্লাসও চালু করা হয়েছে, যাতে ছাত্রছাত্রীরা শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকাদের সঙ্গে সরাসরি কথা বলে তাদের কৌতূহল মিটিয়ে নিতে পারে। দপ্তর আশা করছে রাজ্যের ছাত্রছাত্রীরা এই লাইভ ক্লাস থেকে উপকৃত হবে। তাহলে ছাত্রছাত্রীরা নিশ্চয়ই তোমরা ক্লাসগুলিতে অংশগ্রহণ করবে। সকল অভিভাবক ও শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকাদের অনুরোধ করা হচ্ছে যে তারা যেন ছাত্রছাত্রীদের পূর্ব নির্ধারিত সূচি অনুযায়ী বৈদ্যুতিক মাধ্যমগুলিতে সরাসরি সম্প্রচারকৃত ক্লাসগুলি দেখে তার জন্য যথোপযুক্ত ব্যবস্থা গ্রহণ করেন। সবাই ঘরে থাকুন, সুস্থ থাকুন।
প্রিয় ছাত্রছাত্রী এবং অভিভাবকবৃন্দ, করোনার সংক্রমণের কারণে দীর্ঘদিন ধরে স্কুল বন্ধ রয়েছে, আমরা সবাই জানি। কিন্তু আমাদের ছাত্রছাত্রীরা যেন শিক্ষার সাথে যুক্ত থাকে সেই জন্য শিক্ষা দপ্তর বিভিন্ন কর্মসূচি গ্রহণ করেছে। গত 19শে এপ্রিল থেকে আমরা 3 মে পর্যন্ত 15 দিন কন্টিনিউ 13টা প্রাইভেট চ্যানেলে আমরা রেকর্ডিং অনলাইন ক্লাস করিয়েছি এবং পরবর্তী সময় 6 জুন থেকে শুরু হয়েছে, 15 জুন পর্যন্ত শেষ হয়েছে। 10টা প্রাইভেট চ্যানেল তারা অনলাইন ক্লাস নেওয়া হয়েছে এবং লাইভ টেলিকাস্ট শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকারা ডাইরেক্ট টেলিকাস্ট করছে। এখন আবার 22 জুন থেকে শুরু হতে যাচ্ছে, 1 মাস ব্যাপী 22 জুলাই পর্যন্ত আবার শুরু হবে অনলাইন ক্লাস, লাইভ টেলিকাস্ট। শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকারা এতে অংশগ্রহণ করবে। আমি প্রত্যেক ছাত্রছাত্রীদের অনুরোধ করব এই সময় যেন যাতে আমাদের শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকারা যা টেলিকাস্ট করছে সেটার সাথে যেন তারা ফলো করে, এটা আমি অনুরোধ করব। আর অভিভাবকদের অনুরোধ করব আপনারাও যেন আপনাদের সন্তানদের সঠিকভাবে যাতে লাইভ টেলিকাস্ট দেখতে পারে, অনলাইন ক্লাস দেখতে পারে, তার জন্য প্রয়োজনীয় ব্যবস্থা করবেন। পাশাপাশি কবে স্কুল খুলবে আমরা কিচ্ছু বলতে পারছি না, সেজন্য শিক্ষা দপ্তর আপ্রাণ চেষ্টা করবে যে যতদিন স্কুল না খুলে ততদিন পর্যন্ত অনলাইন ক্লাসগুলি চালিয়ে যাওয়ার জন্য। আশা করি এতে ছাত্রছাত্রীরা উপকৃত হবে। সবাইকে অনুরোধ করব এই বিষয়টা লক্ষ্য রাখার জন্য। ধন্যবাদ, নমস্কার।
Good evening, students. I am Saurabh Chakravarti, PGT Ramakrishna Mission, here again with you to continue our classes of the life process. The topic today is transport system or transportation in living organisms. So broadly, when we speak about living organism, the two pictures which comes is about animals and plants. Of course, in living organism you have unicellular organism and other type of organisms. Now the question comes, the first question which comes to mind, why? What is the need of a transport system in living organisms? You have studied about nutritional process, you have studied about the respiratory process, but you must remember that all organisms are not unicellular. Suppose there is a unicellular organism like amoeba or any paramecium. Now this organism is suppose in link of the food and oxygen and other things which it can directly take from the environment. But think of an organism or an animal where the number of cells are large number of cells are there, a tremendous number of cells as it occurs in multicellular organism. Then what will happen? In that case you will find that some of the cells will be inside the system and others will face or may be exposed to the environment. In that case what will happen? In that case these cells will not get directly the oxygen and food. So what is required? What is required is that these cells must actually transfer, the cells which are exposed to the environment must transfer their food and nutrients to the interior cells which are lying inside. So there should be a mechanism, there should be a process through which these food or oxygen whatever may be can be carried to each and every cell, because without food, without oxygen, without these basic things they will not survive. So there should be a mechanism. So this is why, and that is why actually there a good transport system is required. Sometimes simple diffusion among the cells may be sufficient, but mostly there a very well organized system is required for running the transport. So in animals mostly we have the circulatory system, and in plants we have the vascular system consisting of xylem which carries or transport the water, and the phloem which carries the prepared food from one part of the plant body to the another. So in our discussion today we will mainly study about the circulatory system in the animals, their basic principles, and then we will go for the transport system in plants, then how transportation occurs in through xylem and phloem, that we will see. Okay, let us come to first the circulatory system of the animals. Now suppose, let us give an analogy. Suppose in a area, in a residential area there are many houses and you need to transport the water from the source, that means where water is available, to the different households. So what you require? You require a transport system, and what it will be consist of? It will consist of some pipes, some vessels, that is your pipelines through which the water will be carried. Then you require a driving force to pump to take this water to different household, because water in the pipe in the different households will not go just of their own. You require to have a driving force. So you should have a tower and a pumping mechanism through which the water moves to different places. In the same way, in the living systems, often in the higher animals, there is a central pumping organ, and that central pumping organ is what we call it? Heart. This is as our central pumping organ, and you have a medium through which these different components will move, and you have, as I told you, different blood vessels are required, pipes are required. These are the blood vessels. You have blood vessels. What are those blood vessels? You know their names. These are artery, vein and capillary. Three types of blood vessels are there: arteries, veins and capillaries. We will see later on about them. Now, and you require a medium through which you transport the food and other nutrients and other things. So this medium in most of the animals, higher animals, is blood, but there can be other types like lymph, okay, or hemolymph in insects, but mainly in higher animals this is blood. So the medium is the blood through which different things are moved. The pumping organ is the heart, and the blood vessels are the vessels through which this medium will move. Who generates the force for distribution of these things? The heart. So we call it the central pumping station. Now let us see how this blood moves across the different parts of your body. Okay, before we discuss this, let us understand a little bit about the blood vessels. What are the different blood vessels? I told you these are artery. The first one is artery. What is an artery? Artery is basically a blood vessel which carries blood from the heart to other parts of body. So any blood vessel which carries blood from the heart to the other parts of the body, you call it an artery. This is the actual definition, and most of the arteries carry oxygenated blood, okay, and except for one artery which will come later on, I will show you. And what is a vein? This is another blood vessel, another type. In fact, this is a vessel which carries blood from other parts of body to heart. So from heart to other parts, this is artery. From other parts to heart, this vessel is called a vein. Then a third blood vessel exists, which are called as capillaries. What are these capillaries? What are these capillaries? These capillaries are extremely thin blood vessel that exists between the arteries and veins. How? Let me give you an example. Suppose there is a artery. This artery becomes thin and thin, it separates out into arterioles. So artery and then arterioles means smaller arteries. Then ultimately there is an organ. Suppose a tissue is there, and surrounding the tissue again the arteries become more thinner, extremely thin, having only one layer thick. These blood vessels are called as capillaries. What is special about capillaries? They are extremely thin. and through them actually their diffusion to and fro the tissue or the cell is possible, because their cell walls are extremely thin. Why they are actually not cell wall, their lining is extremely thin. Why? Because they are made up of only one layer which is called tunica intima. But in the case of the arterial veins, there are actually 3 layers of the tissue which makes the vessel: tunica externa, tunica interna, tunica adventitia. 3 layers are there. The techniques, the terms are not required in your standard, but what is to be understood that these capillaries are extremely thin, whereas veins and arteries are comparatively thicker because they have 3 layers of tissue. Okay. Now so you understand also that in an organ, surrounding an organ, it is the capillary network which exists and which actually through diffusion gives and take the different items to the tissue. So in fact the blood vessel never enters inside or actually pricks inside any cell. So what happens is actually they pass through, the capillary pass through the different tissue mass. So then what happens, this through diffusion actually this food and oxygen and other things will pass through. Okay. So this is an introduction of this 3 type of blood vessel. There are some other differences between these 3 type of blood vessels, which I will explain as I go on in this topic. Now let us now come to the distribution and the mechanism how blood is moved from one part of the heart to the other part. In your book there is a diagram of the heart. This is the actual diagram, 2-dimensional diagram. Here I will just draw a representative diagram of the heart and make you understand the circuitry how blood moves. So your your heart is actually having the human heart or mammalian heart is having actually 4 chambers. So there are 4 chambers actually in this just I am drawing a representative diagram. So and these chambers are actually, this is left auricle, then it is left ventricle, then this is right auricle. Auricle is also called atrium. Then there is right ventricle. So what is happening, there are 4 chambers and there is a septum, means wall here and here, which separates the 4 chambers. So there are 4 chambers: right auricle, left auricle, right ventricle, left ventricle, and there are certain blood vessels. This blood vessel which comes from the left ventricle, you call it aorta. You call it aorta. Then there are other blood vessels. You will find that this, suppose blood is here. This blood, I will explain you the whole circuitry as I go on. Once I explain the whole cycle, then you understand it better. So what happens, left ventricle, say blood is going, then the aorta is there. This is the largest artery in your body, that means in diameter, in terms of diameter, and then it splits into other arteries, arterioles and other things, it splits, and ultimately, suppose this is just a graphically I am saying it is body, means different organs are there. Here arterioles actually unite to form what you call capillary. That I have told earlier, that artery in one end it is having capillary, in one end is having artery, and another end it is having veins. So what is happening is that the blood actually from arteries move to the capillary, in the capillary network which surrounds the different organs, it actually exchanges the food and nutrients. So, what it will do, these cells of the body or different organs will give out the carbon dioxide because respiration is going on. So, it will release a lot of carbon dioxide which will go in the capillary, and the capillaries actually release in their oxygen. So, in the tissues or in the organs, what will happen, oxygen will enter inside and carbon dioxide will be given out. So, you know, carbon dioxide is an excretory product, whereas oxygen is a vital necessity for respiration for this tissue. So, they will exchange it. Then in that end, another end, these capillaries will unite to what you call, to form vessels which are called as veins. Remember my definition. What is an artery? An artery is a blood vessel which actually moves blood from the heart, that is from the heart to the other parts. So, this part is what you call as artery, because this blood vessels actually is carrying blood from the heart to the different tissues and organs. Now, once it is in the tissue and organ, the oxygen and food has been taken up by the tissue and it releases carbon dioxide. At the other end, now the blood moves towards the heart. That part, these vessels are called veins. So, what is happening? So, veins are being formed at the other part, and this actually veins actually collect the blood from the body parts and give it and actually deposit it to the ventricles, especially which ventricle you must see. So, here ventricles, which ventricle? In the right, first it will give it to the auricle, not ventricle, it will give it to the right auricle. So, what is happening? So, there are two blood vessels, major veins, one coming from the upper side of the body, means above your heart. These are called superior vena cava. So, one is superior vena cava and another collects it from the down to your heart, that is inferior vena cava. So, these are the two blood vessels. What they do? They actually deposit or collect the blood and put it inside the right auricle. So, what is happening? So, the deoxygenated blood or used up blood which is full of carbon dioxide actually reaches to the right auricle. So, let us trace it back again. From left ventricle it started, then through the aorta, and then arteries, ultimately capillary, then body, then from here through the veins again back to the right auricle. Now, this pathway is known as systemic circulation. This pathway of blood is known as the systemic circulation. So, that is from left ventricle to body to right auricle, this pathway is known as the systemic circulation. Then what happens? Then you know the heart beats, that means it undergoes regular contraction and relaxation. So, when it actually contracts, then actually from auricle there are some openings, these are called valves. There are some openings which are called valves. Through these valves actually blood moves to the right ventricle, it moves to the right ventricle. From the right ventricle then it comes to some other part. Let us see where it comes. This, remember this from here again, this is what, here it comes to what you call lungs. So, what is happening? What type of blood it is? It is deoxygenated blood, means deprived of oxygen, it is rich in carbon dioxide. Then from auricle it comes to right ventricle, from the right ventricle it moves to the lungs. Okay. Now, what it has to do with the lungs? in the lungs, in fact oxygenation occurs, there is exchange of gases occurring in the lungs. Now when automatically in the lungs carbon dioxide is given out. Now you may say why should lung blood vessels, that is the lung capillaries in fact, release carbon dioxide? Because the amount of carbon dioxide, the concentration of carbon dioxide is much more in the blood here which reaches the lungs, because this is deoxygenated blood. So the concentration being more, it will diffuse out of the lungs, and these lung capillaries will instead take oxygen, because when we inhale the air, what happens? It contains more of oxygen. You know, atmospheric air contains almost on average 21% oxygen. So obviously atmospheric air which is inside your lungs will have more oxygen that will diffuse inside the lungs. So actually it goes in the blood. So from there the lungs actually it moves through a vein. This is called what? This is called pulmonary artery. Remember, it is called this one from right ventricle to the lungs. This is called pulmonary artery. Now you may ask one question, sir, what is the meaning of pulmonary? What is this pulmonary? Pulmonary word comes from pulmonium. Pulmonium means lungs. So it actually carries the blood to the lungs. Now since it is giving blood from the ventricle, that is from heart to the lungs, so obviously it is an artery, but mark it, although it is an artery, it carries deoxygenated blood. Remember, most of the arteries carries what? Oxygenated blood, but there is only one artery which carries deoxygenated blood, that is the pulmonary artery. Now coming here to this lungs, from here what blood will come? This will be O2 rich oxygenated blood. This will come to the auricle, left auricle. Now this coming to the left auricle, this one is what? It is heart is receiving and it is coming from some other part. So you call it a vein. It is of course a vein, but it is pulmonary vein. So it is the only vein which carries oxygenated blood. Otherwise all the other veins carry deoxygenated blood, all the other arteries carry oxygenated blood. So when you write the difference between these two, what are the differences between the arteries and vein? This is the often asked question. So there are a lot of differences. First difference is that in case of the artery, it carries blood from the heart to other parts, you must write. Then next is vein carries it from the other parts to the heart, collects it to the heart. Then this is the first difference. Second difference which will come to your mind is that oxygenated blood, arteries often carries oxygenated blood, whereas veins carries deoxygenated blood, but you must write except one, that is in the case of the pulmonary artery, the exception in the case of the artery, the exception is pulmonary artery which carries oxygenated blood, deoxygenated blood, although it is an artery, and in the case of vein the exception is pulmonary vein which although is a vein, it carries actually oxygenated blood. So keeping this in your head, you can differentiate, but never write the definition that a blood vessel which carries oxygenated blood is a artery. This is a wrong definition. This is not a universal definition. So you must write a blood vessel which carries it from the heart to the other parts is an artery, and from other parts to heart is a vein. This is one thing. Now another thing to be noted is that, as I told you, here from aorta to the body, and that is different parts of the body, to the right auricle, this is called systemic circulation. Now what is this pathway called, this circuitry called? So here from right ventricle to the lungs to the left auricle, this circuitry is called as pulmonary circulation. So there are two types of circulation. One is the your systemic circulation, another is the pulmonary circulation. So these are the two types of circulations which actually together constitute the entire circuitry, how the blood actually moves from one part of the body to the another using the heart as a central pumping station. So this is a 4-chambered heart. Certain things again has to be noted down. In higher animals like human beings, there are 4-chambered heart, and you might have seen that here I was telling that what this chamber contains, it contains oxygenated blood. What this chamber contains means where, how it comes, when it pumps, that is when there is contraction of the heart, then from auricle to blood moves to ventricle. Now here what type of blood is there? This is also oxygenated blood, but what type of blood is here? It is deoxygenated blood. There is very less oxygen, deoxygenated blood. Here is deoxygenated blood. So you must see here that there is a total separation of the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Now this has a lot of advantages, and this arrangement you will find in 4-chambered heart only. Many organisms have 2-chambered heart, fishes have 2-chambered heart. Then what will happen? In that case there will be actually mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. When there is mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, then there is a problem. What is the problem? Per liter of blood, the amount of oxygen delivered will become less. It is natural. Suppose you are asked, you take some raw, two liquids are there, you give them separately to a person, then you separately give it, measuring them, then he will get the whole thing. But if you mix them together, each of the components by liter, per liter will be less. So the delivery of oxygen per liter of blood will be less in those organisms where there is mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. But in lower organisms, lesser developed organisms, this is sufficient. For example, in fishes, in amphibians, where there is mixing, it does not create much problem, because they do not have such type of active life in that case compared to birds and mammals. You will find in birds and mammals there is 4-chambered heart. What is the advantage? In both the cases there are 4 chambers, and oxygenated and deoxygenated blood is totally separate. This ensures faster delivery of oxygen to these organisms, because you know that both mammals and birds are very active. Bloods, especially the birds, require tremendous amount of energy for respiration. You must remember that for respiration oxygen is required. So what is happening is that here in such type of organisms there is a large amount of blood which are being released, which are being a large amount of oxygen which is being released, and that is why these organisms are very active. Okay, but you may ask one question, sir, insects are also very active, so insects also fly, so do they have the 4-chambered heart? No. In insects the system is different. Their blood do not have any respiratory function. In mammals and the say birds, that is aves, they have the blood or oxygen has a means the hemoglobin has a respiratory function, the blood has a respiratory function, but not so in insects. In insects there is another system which is called tracheal system, where directly it is delivered through a network of tubes. That is a separate system, but that also ensures faster delivery of the oxygen to the tissues. So evolutionary, there can be more than multiple ways, more than different one way through which organisms solve the problem of the gaseous exchange, okay, and its circulation to different parts. So here this is how the system works. So you have a systemic circulation and you have a pulmonary circulation and you have a central pumping station. Now if I just get you an interesting question, which will be more actually muscular, auricle or ventricle? Now the answer will be that the ventricles are more muscular than the auricles, and in between the ventricles, if you ask, sir, which is more muscular, right ventricle or left ventricle, what do you think? I would say answer is that left ventricle is most muscular. Why? Because left ventricle requires more energy, more force of contraction, because it has to move blood to different parts of the body, but right ventricle only pumps blood to the lungs. So comparatively it is less muscular. This is the reason. Okay. So with this we actually ended up a overview of this circulatory system, especially the heart and its circuitry, how it works. Okay. Now let us come to the system in the plants, that is how does actually circulation yes or transport occurs in the plants. We should not say it's circulatory system, because you see in plants there is no circulatory loop, means coming back to the same thing, not like that. So we cannot call it a circulatory system, but of course there is a well developed transport system in plants. Let us see how it occurs and how it functions. Now first thing is that which comes is that in plants there are two types of vascular vessels. One is called the xylem, another is called phloem. Now these two actually transports different type of nutrients or water to different parts of the plant body. Xylem is what the vessel which carries actually water, it transports water, and phloem actually transports food, prepared food. And remember, the plants actually prepare food mainly through the process of photosynthesis. Okay. And this food is not prepared by each and every cell, only the cell which contains chloroplast can do photosynthesis, and they have to transport it to the other parts of the plant body. All those cells which are not actually preparing food, but they need food for their survival, so they have to be transported. Okay. In the same way, each and every part of the cell requires water. So even suppose, where from they get the water? From the soil. Water comes from soil. Now certain parts of the plants are associated with the soil, say the roots, but what about those top of the plants or trees where is water is also required? How is this transportation occurring? Because you know, at the top of the part of the plant, if you have to put the soil water just rise above, it has to work against gravity. So the basic question which comes, how does these plants defy the force of gravity? How does water reach to the top of the trees? So that has to be understood. So let us come to this transport of water first, how it occurs in a plant body. So suppose there is just a representative one, this is a plant body. I say at the top of the tree is there, plants are there, and then there is a this is a stem, so trunk I can say, and then this tree is there, then root is there. Okay. So in the root, I magnify it, in the root system there are different type of cells, and now these are root hairs, means these are root hair, means at the extreme part of the root there are certain hair like structures which are actually plant cells, and it is surrounded with soil, and in the soil there is water. Now at the first onset, what will happen at the onset, water must enter the root cells, because the root actually transport everything water may say transported from the soil. So first it must enter the root hair cells. So how it enters, this is the question. Why should water enter inside the root cells? The answer is what you have studied in class 9, the basic principle of the osmosis, and you might have also studied about the osmotic different solutions of different strengths, isosmotic, hypertonic or hypertonic, hypotonic, isotonic type of solution. So what is a hypertonic solution? A solution in which the amount of solute is higher, means it is a concentrated solution. In common language, if you can say, it is just a concentrated solution, it is a hypertonic solution. In such a solution, solvent will move, water will move through the process of osmosis. So what happens is that this root hair solution is very concentrated. Why? Because in the root there is a lot of cytoplasm, there are sugars and other things which make the solution very concentrated. But so because of this, water will move from the soil to the root hair, the first cell suppose. Then once it acquires the water, what happens to it? It was hypertonic, now it became hypotonic because it has acquired water. Now hypotonic compared to what? Hypotonic compared to the next cell, means the up cell. What happens? There still there is more sugar because it is a concentrated solution. Now here water has entered. So what will happen? It will be hypotonic now compared to here. This is now hypertonic. So what will happen? Again from this hypotonic to hypertonic, again this water will move. So in this way water will move to certain height, and technically the force generated due to this process is called as the root pressure. Sometimes if you actually take very lower plants, succulent plants or herbaceous plants, and cut the lower part, you will some water is bubbling out. That is because of the root pressure. In fact, this root pressure is created because of this osmotic gradient which I have explained here. Because of this movement of the water, it rises up. Once it rises up to certain level, then it reaches to the phloem vessels. To the xylem vessel, not phloem, xylem vessel, because xylem carries water. Now after that the root pressure becomes non-functional. Why? Because the gravity becomes very strong, so it cannot further push or pull the water upward. But now another concept comes. This how water actually moves the top of the plant. This concept is called transpirational pull theory. This is given by Dixon and Joly, two scientists. They gave a theory which is called transpirational pull theory. What is that? Let us see. They told that transpiration occurs where, mostly in the leaves or where stomata is there, transpiration is occurring. What is transpiration? Transpiration means the release of water from the stomata or from the opening of the plants, and these transpiration leads to loss of water. So of course transpiration is a evil process because it leads to loss of water, but there is an advantage to it. When in a dry environment, air is dry, there is sunlight, the rate of transpiration will increase, but that air will go, water will go in the air, fine, but that creates a vacuum, a suction. A vacuum is created because once the water leaves there, it creates a suctional force, and that is called the transpirational pull. Now let us come to some two other forces which are playing here. some other forces are there. Suppose there is a vessel and that is a pipe, for your simplicity I am saying, and there is there water is being lost. So, a pool will be created upward, that is called transpirational pool. But there are two more forces which are helping in the process of transpiration. What are those forces? One is cohesive force, you call it cohesive force. Another is called adhesive force. Now you may ask, sir, what is this adhesive and cohesive force? You have seen Fevicol, that is called adhesive. What is that Fevicol? Fevicol helps to stick one substance or put the two things together, that is two different types of things can remain together, that is called adhesion. The force which allows these two things to remain together, that is called adhesive force. So, what happens actually when water from the soil reaches to the stem, then in the xylem the adhesive forces actually help the water molecule to stick to the wall of the xylem. It remains stuck to the wall of the xylem, just like that. And then one is the force, one is the this wall, another is the water molecule. These two are sticking together. This is called adhesive force. But there is another force which is called cohesive force. What is this cohesive force? Try a simple experiment in home. Just in a tumbler, in a glass, you just put some water and try to slowly pour it down. So, will the water molecules get down one after another, or in a train or in a continuous way? They will fall down in a continuous way, because one molecule will pull another. That means, suppose you are dropping some water molecule, so one molecule will fall, but they will pull the next one as they get down. This is called cohesive force. Because of cohesive force, actually one water molecule remains stuck with the another here in the xylem vessel, and because of adhesive force they remain adhered to the wall, they adjust to the wall. But because of transpiration pull, they are pulled upwards, so they will basically creep upwards. So, what is happening? A force is there which is called transpirational pull, which is pulling the train of water molecules to the top of the plant, defying the gravity, and this is how actually water reaches to the top of the plant. Once they reach to this part, again some water will be lost by transpiration, then again it will be pulled from the downwards. So, there is a continuous train of the water molecules being pulled by this process of what you called as the transpiration. So, although transpiration is a evil process, but it is a necessary evil. So, sometimes a question is asked, why transpiration is called a necessary evil? Because without transpiration there will be no transpirational pull, there will be no transpirational pull. When there will be no transpirational pull, water cannot reach to the top of the plants. Of course, the lower plants, herbaceous plants, smaller plants, for them root pressure is sufficient, but for the higher trees, higher plants, transpirational pull is a very important force actually, which actually transmits or carries the water to the higher parts of the plant. Okay. So, you can see that in this way so what are the force? To summarize, there is root pressure, there is adhesive force, there is cohesive force, and there is transpirational pull. All these things together work in a unified way to push the water column to the top of the plant, and that is how actually water moves from the soil, from the root to the top of the plant. And you must remember, it moves through the xylem vessel. That is called this process. Through this process actually it is explained that how water moves. Now another question comes, then what about the prepared food? Means prepared food also needs to be moved from one part of the plant to the another part of the plant. How does it occur? Does it occur through transpirational pool? No. This transport of food material in the phloem occurs through actually a different type of mechanism. So, to understand it, let us see a diagram. Just it is not required in your standard, but to understand the mechanism a little bit, let us see. And the process is called translocation. That means the movement of prepared food from one part of the plant to the another is called as translocation. Now, how this translocation occurs? Now, what is there? Suppose there is a let us do an experiment. Just a beaker is there, and there is a membrane. This is actually a semi permeable membrane, and there is water there. There is a pipe connected there, and then there is another what are this? This is another beaker containing water. So, what is this? This is a semi permeable membrane, means through which water can pass. Now, there is water here also, outside there is water also. Now, what is happening? In this you have, suppose, given sugar, that means you have added sugar. How many? Suppose 10 spoons. So, it is a concentrated solution. Now, what is happening here? Here you have only 1 spoon of sugar. This is also water solution. This is also water solution. Now, what is happening? Let us see. Water will move from here. You know it. Why? Because here more concentration of water. It is a hypertonic solution. So, water will move. Once water will move, then this water will move through this, and there the sugar, some of the sugar will be added here. Now, if here this continuously, what is happening here? This is going to this side. So, what is happening? Sugar concentration will go on increasing. Here water will enter, but then what is happening? You can see that there is one source and there is one sink. Source means the place at which food is being prepared. There is a lot of, suppose, the leaf of the plant. This leaf of the plant has a lot of carbohydrate. So, this leaf of the plant will actually is the source. Here higher concentration of sugar is there. So, here from here this water will move carrying the sugar to the sink where there is less food. This is called pressure flow hypothesis, and using this pressure flow hypothesis there is balancing of the two sides, and as per the need there is transport of the food from one part of the plant to the another part. So, with this our transportation part ends. I hope you are keeping fine in these days. Keep yourself healthy, keep yourself fine. Thank you. Have a nice night.
করোনা সংক্রমণের হাত থেকে ছাত্রছাত্রীদেরকে বাঁচানোর জন্য রাজ্য সরকার অনলাইন ক্লাস এবং লাইভ ক্লাস করার ব্যবস্থা নিয়েছেন বৈদ্যুতিক চ্যানেলের মাধ্যমে। বিগত 19শে এপ্রিল থেকে শিক্ষা দপ্তর অনলাইনে ক্লাসের ব্যবস্থা করেছেন। আমি আশা করি তাতে রাজ্যের ছাত্রছাত্রীরা লাভান্বিত হয়েছেন। আর দ্বিতীয় 6 6 জুন থেকে বৈদ্যুতিক চ্যানেলের মাধ্যমে লাইভ ক্লাসের ব্যবস্থা করা। আমি আশা করি এই ক্লাসগুলো সমস্ত ছাত্রছাত্রীরা অ্যাটেন্ড করবেন এবং তার সুফল রাজ্যের সমস্ত ছাত্রছাত্রীরা এবং তার পরিবারের সদস্যরাও পেতে সক্ষম। আজকের এই পরিস্থিতিতে কোনোভাবেই রাজ্য সরকার ঝুঁকি নিয়ে ক্লাস বা স্কুল খোলার ব্যাপারে সিদ্ধান্ত নিতে সক্ষম নয় যতদিন পর্যন্ত না করোনা সংক্রমণের ভ্যাকসিন না আসে বা সোশ্যাল ডিস্টেন্সিং মেনটেন করে ক্লাস চালানোর ব্যবস্থা না হয় ততদিন পর্যন্ত ক্লাসরুমে বসে ক্লাস করা সম্ভব নয়। তার জন্য শিক্ষা দপ্তর এই সিদ্ধান্তগুলো নিয়েছেন। আমি আশা করি বৈদ্যুতিক চ্যানেলের মাধ্যমে যে লাইভ ক্লাস তার লাভ সমস্ত ছাত্রছাত্রীরা পাবেন এবং নিজেকে সে মতো তৈরি করবেন।
করোনা সংক্রমণ রোধে রাজ্য সরকার বিদ্যালয়গুলিতে পঠন পাঠন বন্ধ রাখতে বাধ্য হয়েছে। এতে ছাত্রছাত্রীরা নিয়মিত শ্রেণী শিক্ষা অনুসরণ করতে অসমর্থ হচ্ছে। ফলে ছাত্রছাত্রীদের শিক্ষণ প্রক্রিয়ার সাথে সম্পৃক্ত রাখার লক্ষ্যে মাননীয় মুখ্যমন্ত্রীর অনুপ্রেরণায় ও মাননীয় শিক্ষামন্ত্রীর একান্ত আগ্রহে বিদ্যালয় শিক্ষা দপ্তর 19 এপ্রিল থেকে বৈদ্যুতিন মাধ্যমগুলিতে এলিমেন্টারি এবং সেকেন্ডারি স্তরের ছাত্রছাত্রীদের জন্য অনলাইন ক্লাস শুরু করেছিল। পরবর্তী সময়ে ছাত্রছাত্রীদের অনলাইন